What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We are back doing another preview video. This one is for Wales versus Australia. This is where, of course, we chuck on a game of Rugby 20 in the background, and then over the top we talk about the official teams that have been announced, what we think is going to be the game plans for the teams, who we think is going to do well, who we think is going to do badly, and finally give a score prediction for what we think the real game will be in real life. There's a lot to talk about in this game, so let's get this game kicked off and underway. Alrighty, L Bell will get us kicked off and underway. Not that that's a real player. Australia not licensed in this game. We've already started off with an improper kickoff. Wonderful, what a great start to this game. Right then, Wales versus Australia. This is a game we've seen an awful lot over the past few years. This tends to come up in most World Cups for whatever reason. I'm pretty sure those ball picking things are pretty rigged. We see this a lot, and they're normally some really tight games, to be honest. They're normally within a score, I would say. They're two teams that offer slightly different styles of play. Wales, a very defensive, absorbing team that enjoy a counter-attack, and Australia are sort of the go-ahead, all-out, forward momentum team that like to push forward, so they sort of counteract each other a little bit, and it's always quite a fun game to watch. Who should we start off talking about? Let's talk about Wales, because I tend to rant, don't I, when we get talking about Wales. Let's start off with Wales first. So Wales, of course, had that enormous loss against New Zealand. They had a much better game against South Africa, and then of course last week we had Wales versus Fiji, which I actually got to go watch live down in the Principality, which was a lot of fun. I haven't done a vlog for that one. I did do one for the Wales New Zealand one, for anyone who hasn't seen that one yet, and Wales had a lot left to be desired. I think that game not going quite how Wales will have wanted it to. The scoreboard at the end looking incredibly flattering, I think, due to some brilliant work from players like Rhys Zammit doing amazing things out on his own. I think it showed a lot of weaknesses in the Wales team, a lot of things not going right for them. The team that used to be able to just absorb onslaughting attack is now just getting carved apart by Fiji. There were some late-minute changes to that game. I ranted in the preview video for that one how much I was surprised to be seeing Josh Adams at centre as opposed to Nick Tompkins, who's great at 13, and in the warm-up Josh Adams picking up an injury, we got to see Nick Tompkins play 13 anyway. Looking ahead towards this game, Wales got a lot of areas to work on. The line-out certainly improved from what we saw against New Zealand against Fiji, but Fiji not necessarily known for their line-out. All of the things in the world Fiji are known for in rugby, line-out's not particularly one of them. So they'll be looking to try and improve on a couple of areas and make their game gel a little bit, because Australia are going to offer very, very different sort of threat. So let's check out the team Wales have put out, starting off with this front row. Wyn Jones, Ryan Elias and Tom Francis. Now, Ryan Elias' throwing was the worst throwing I may have ever seen in the New Zealand game. However, he has been getting better. South Africa are a difficult line-out team to beat anyway. And in the Fiji game, better. You'd have to say better, but again, like I said, not quite the same level of things. So hopefully he can have a good game. Personally here, might be looking for Elliot D over Ryan Elias in that starting line-out, but you know what, not terrible. But it's nice to see Tom Francis back in there after picking up his concussion last week. In terms of the lock department, Adam Beard and Seb Davis going in now, because I think Will Rowland's gone out with an injury as well. Wales are just battered and bruised with injuries. It is so hard to keep track of some of this Wales team. It's lucky that I do know a little bit about them. Two big line-out jumpers. Seb Davis, unfortunately, is a bit of a super sub, so hopefully he can maintain his good form for the full 80, because I don't even know how they're going to get on in that second half in terms of losing more locks. I think we've lost about 50 locks in Wales now. On to the back three. Ellis Jenkins going to be retaining that captaincy. Thought he played really well last week. Again, the captaincy role for him. He's only played, this will be his third game in like 4 years for Wales, so to take over the captaincy again and play well is really nice to see. Tame Basham at 7 and Aaron Wainwright at 8. And you know what, Tame Basham playing okay last week at 8, not his usual position, definitely having a tough old game. Aaron Wainwright now back from his little knock that he picked up, so it's a strong back 3, and I think 1 to 8, this is one of the best 1 to 8 setups I think I've seen this autumn series. Given the players available, I've said it every week, there's been an issue for me. I think this is probably the best one we've seen so far in terms of I believe this team can work well together. So that'll be nice to see. Hopefully they'll be able to put up with the Australian scrum. We know how big Australia are in terms of scrummaging, in terms of their mauls, and just their general breakdowns in terms of the ruck. They really love getting over that ball, so hopefully Wales will be able to deal with it. Looking further back towards the half-back partnership then, Thomas Williams and Dan Biggar. So we switched it up last week. I don't think Kieran Hardy had a terrible game. It's just a thing in Wales. I don't quite understand it. I will never understand it, and I rant about it every week. The box kicking from Wales seems bizarre. It's not quite the same thing. Normally when you watch a team do box kicks, there's normally a valid reason behind it. When you watch South Africa do more box kicks than I would say maybe any team in the world. But the reason South Africa do box kicks is they only do box kicks when they're on the back foot. If they go through the phases and they run out of options, they switch to the box kick and they tend to have the ball back. They either kick it short and incredibly high to allow someone to compete for the ball, or they kick it long and incredibly high, only with wingers chasing in order to just smash whoever catches it and turn back over the ball. When Wales do box kicks, it just doesn't seem to do anything other than give the ball back to the other team. We saw this against Fiji last week, and they just carve in and go for that counter-attack, and Wales don't seem to be able to defend it. And we saw it against New Zealand with players like Will Jordan just running through the lines because we gave them the ball. So I really hope to see in this game, because Australia have got a couple of players that enjoy a counter-attack run as well, I'm really hoping they shut down the box kicking, except when absolutely necessary. I see no difference in doing a box kick as opposed to passing it back to a fly half to do a decent kick or try and find some grass. I really hope they work on that this week. In terms of the centre partnership, more switches around again. This week we have Halaholo coming in on the inside centre at 12 and Nick Tompkins retaining that 13 in the outside centre. This is the partnership I wanted to see, and I've wanted to see for about a year and a half, and we just don't get to see it. I wanted to see this work. I think Halaholo's playing really well at club level. And definitely works better at that 12. I know, again, they try and swap him between 12 and 13. And Nick Tompkins works way better in 13 than he does at 12. And he showed it last week. There were a couple of errors, of course. There were a couple of things that didn't go quite right for him. But I think overall, I think Nick Tompkins showed off why he's getting into this Wales team and being picked to play at that 13. At the minute, I would rather pick him over Jonathan Davis. And I maybe would rather pick Halaholo over Johnny Williams. They offer two very different styles of play. Halaholo much larger as a player, so you see him do a lot more sort of striking runs through gaps, whereas Johnny Williams tends to just try and dodge his way around to find some gaps. Different sort of style player, but they offer a very similar sort of thing. Personally happy with this centre partnership. I think this is really good. And then finally in that back three, Josh Adams taking back over on the left wing, moving back from centre. He's had his minute of playing centre and now he moves back to the left wing. Rhys Zammit, who had a really nice game against Fiji, and Liam Williams will retain that full-back position. Nice to see Josh Adams back on that wing. No idea what this thing is to try and keep moving him to centre. Keep him on the left wing. It's where he's doing well. Rhys Zammit last week, I had a couple of complaints from people sitting behind me in the stadium that they were thinking that Rhys Zammit wasn't doing a great deal, and yet he had a try disallowed that was an incredible try, and then actually scored one that was maybe even better, which he had no right to get anywhere near to scoring. I think he's playing superb rugby at the minute. I believe he's also up for a nomination for Rugby Player of the Year award as well, so that's nice to see. Or not Rugby Player, one of the breakthrough players, sorry. And then Liam Williams, does what Liam Williams does, got man of the match last week. I think he was playing really well. But as a 1 to 15, this is the best team for me. This is the best team hands down we've seen going into this Autumn Nations. This is the team I think will work well. This is the team I think will gel well together. It's got everyone in the correct places, which is nice to see. I think this is actually a good Wales team. We are into the second half. I don't know if anyone's paying attention to this game in the background. This has been a great game in the background. If you want to finish this video, if you listen to it in the background and want to go back and actually watch the game, there's a great game going on here. In terms of the subs then for Wales, in that replacement front row, D, Thomas and Lewis. So Elliot D, nice to see him back in the team. I do favour his line-out throws over Ryan Elias, but I don't think it's a bad move necessarily. Australia will play the full 80. It's worth having a good set of front rows to come on afterwards, including Dylan Lewis, who had to play a long time last week. We have Ben Carter going to be coming in because, of course, now we're running out of locks in the whole of Wales, but it's nice to see Carter going in. He doesn't play bad rugby at all, so it'll be nice to see him. And then finally, Chris Schunzer, whose name I'm slowly getting better at pronouncing, who has the deepest voice in the world. If you've ever heard him talk, he has the greatest, deep voice. It's fantastic. Should be doing narration rather than playing rugby. Got to see him last week doing a bit of play on the pitch, going up against Fiji. Didn't really put a foot wrong. Nothing really to complain about. It's what we like to see. In terms of the replacement backs, Gareth Davis, Rhys Priestland and Johnny McNichol. So relatively good coverage here. You've got McNichol can play wing or fullback. I imagine what will happen is if a centre gets injured, you'll see McNichol move to the wing and Josh Adams move to centre. And Priestland's got your fly half covered there as well. And Gareth Davis is more than happy to go in at that scrum half position. I think they've got all the backs covered. In all honesty, guys, I've complained a lot about this team over the autumn series, but I actually think this is a really good Wales Wales team, which means they'll be putting pressure on Australia, who are currently 0 from 2, if I got that correct now. They lost to Scotland, they've lost to England. Last week, again, I think a favourable scoreline to Australia, actually. I don't think they ran that game at all. They just managed to come away with points. But they'll be looking for, hopefully, to try and turn their sort of autumn series around. But it's going to be a very, very tough game because that looks like quite a good Wales team to me. So let's talk about the Australian team. Unfortunately, again, no cool graphics from Australia. Real shame. Whoever works their marketing department needs to do better to help me do my videos when I steal the things from you. So starting off in this front row, James Slipper, Tola Latu, and Taniela Tupou going to be starting. So they've gone for heavy forwards to start off with. This could be a really good tactic. They definitely saw in teams like New Zealand and South Africa how much Wales can struggle in that scrum. I think putting on the big boys to start off with might not be a terrible move. Wales have definitely fronted up on some of their team. Put on the heavy boys to start off with. Try and put them under some pressure. Maybe get a maul try. Not necessarily a bad move. In the lock department, Rory Arnold and Isaac Rodder. So again, high cap players here. I mean, in this top starting 5 here, I mean, you're on like 200 caps already just in the starting 5 here, so it's really nice to see an experienced team going on for Australia here. And then in the back 3, Rob Leota, Pete Samu and Rob Valentini, because of course Michael Hooper out now with an injury, I believe, so that could be a real shame for them, but it's a great news for any Wales supporters out there. Valentini's playing good rugby at the minute, but yeah, Samu got some big shoes to fill in that flanker position. In terms of the halfback partnership, Nick White and James O'Connor. James O'Connor, I thought, had a much better game last week than games I've seen him in previously, and Nick White just loves constantly talking. Always talking, isn't he? Never shuts up. In the centre partnership, Hunter Paisami and Ikatau. This is the team we've seen going on now through most of these games. And then finally, the back 3. Daugunu, Andrew Kellaway and Kurtley Beale. Andrew Kellaway is a very, very good player. I really enjoy watching him play. Kurtley Beale for me there is maybe the weak link. That would be the player I'm absolutely targeting there if I'm Wales. Just to try and make a bit of an impact. I don't think he's played very well in the past 2 games. I would put him under a lot of pressure, a lot of high balls with some good chases like Zammit and Josh Adams. Put huge pressure on him. I think he'll be the area to make mistakes. And then finally, because we are getting slowly towards near the end of the game here, we'll check out the replacements. So we got Falau Fainga, Angus Bell and Alan Alatoa. So again, heavy forwards actually. This is a big scrum going on here. They're really going to push this. I think Australia will be wanting to keep this in amongst the forwards. Al Alatoa especially is a big man there. Their tight heads have certainly got some weight on them. We also got Will Skelton and Swinton. 2 very, very big players going to be coming on in that second half. Will Skelton is, of course, 7'9", as we always talk about. He's a big old man. Replacement scrum half, Tate McDermott, who doesn't make as much of an impact as I would like to see. Definitely likes to carry the ball from hand, but I do think the passing and the defensive rate isn't as good as Nick White for me, but nice to see him in there. We do have a debutant in Foketti. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Not sure about him. Hopefully he'll have a good game. And then finally in that final position, Tom Wright, who unfortunately isn't having the impact we want to be seeing from Tom Wright. He is a very good player. I just don't think he's had the run of play, unfortunately, in the last couple of games we've seen him in. Hopefully he'll make a bit of an impact from that bench. So what do we think in terms of a score prediction? Now, this game normally comes down to maybe 1 score in history. I've got a feeling Wales might actually be quite confident in this one. Australia not on the best form. They are getting points. They are getting over that line. If Wales can sort out their defensive work and they can sort out some of those line-out situations, I think Wales are in with a really good opportunity of taking a win here. So for me personally, I'm going to pick Wales to win. I don't think it'll be over 2 scores. I'm going to say Wales to win by 8, I think, is going to be my call. But of course, guys, I am but one man on the internet talking nonsense about rugby, so make sure you drop down in the comments who you think will win, what you think the final score prediction will be. I always enjoy reading through the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop it a like and to keep up to date with all the latest videos as they come out. Make sure to subscribe to the channel just to keep up to date with when they come out, and make sure that bell icon is on so you get the first notification out of everyone. But I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys. I'm looking forward to this game, but I will see you all next time, guys, and enjoy a good weekend of rugby. Bye-bye.